Today we learn the differences between the pair among and between and how to use them correctly in written sentences and never mix them up again. Hello, I'm Seema from Edufinite. Learning the difference between the pair among and between will help to clear your dilemma, and using them correctly in written English will enhance your writing skills. So, without any further delay, let's delve into the topic. So, let's learn the difference between among and between and where and when to use them. So, first, let's look into their meanings. So, among is a preposition. In fact, both are prepositions. And what is its meaning? It is used to name any element, 3 or more, that are part of a group or are not separate. So among, we usually think that whenever, it's 3 or more than 3 things, we can use among. Well, that's not so. First thing is, of course, it has to be minimum 3 things. But again, you have to remember they should not be separate things, because if they are separate things, then you cannot use among. I'll come to that a little later. The things should not be separate. That means like you cannot, distinctly mention something. If you're using among, then it has to be a part of a group or something that is not distinct or it's separately mentioned, nothing of that sort. So the next one is usually it's followed by a plural noun. So among, since it concerns or it is associated or it is a part of a group, so it is followed by a plural noun. Next we have between, and it is also a preposition. And what does between mean? It is used to name any number, can be more than 2. So we usually think when we have 2, then we usually say between. But it can be more than 2 numbers. That means any number of elements that are distinct and separate. So even if there are 3 or 4 mentioned, but they are distinctly mentioned. For example, you say in a group of countries or, dresses, that way it's not distinctly mentioned. But if you say green dress, blue dress, yellow dress, then they are distinctly mentioned. So when they are separately or distinctly mentioned, whatever be their numbers, we usually use between in such cases. We'll look into the sentences a little later and you'll be able to understand it much better then. The next is usually used to introduce a prepositional phrase containing 2 singular or plural noun phrases. So now let's look into the sentences to understand the meaning much better. So the sentences. Roma found the white pullover hung between the 2 pink ones. So here we have 2 pink pullovers and in between we have the white one. So here, since we have 2 things and we are taking something in the middle, if we have 2 things, 2 equal group of things or 2 things and we have something in the middle, then also we use between. So that's why we have used Roma found the white pullover hung between the 2 pink ones and not among the 2 pink ones. Okay, the next one. Roma could not find the dirty white pullover among the dirty pile of clothes. So there is a huge pile of clothes. That means what? It is a group. So amidst a group, you have to find the white pullover. So here, since it's associated with a group, a huge pile of dirty clothes, so we are using among. Roma could not find the dirty white pullover among the dirty pile of clothes. Next, the doctor's clinic is open between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. Here, see, as I told you, 2 or more numbers or, between connects to periods of time of numbers and shows the interval between the 2 points. So when we have 2 numbers and we have to show an interval between these 2 numbers, then we use between and not among. So it can be also used, to scale on a map or anywhere when we have 2 numbers and we have to show the difference between these 2 numbers. So naturally we use between. Okay, next we have The board member decided among themselves as to who would they elect as their president. So the board members, that means a group. So, as we said, among is associated with a group. So we use among. Next. In our city, the summer temperature varies between 28 degrees and 35 degrees. So as I told you, again, two numbers and the interval between them, we are trying to focus over here. So we have used between. Okay. The next one, when the class teacher suddenly announced that he would take a surprise test, panic spread among the students. So over here again, group of students, so it's among and not between. Next. So over here, the meaning will be a little more clear with this sentence. Look at this sentence. Jenny is finding it difficult to choose between the orange dress, the blue dress and the green dress. Can you help her? So over here, what is happening? See, we have clearly or distinctly mentioned the color of the dresses and they are separate. We did not say dresses. If we would have said dresses, then that would have been, Jenny is finding it difficult to choose among her dresses. So then it becomes, that's not distinct. So then we use among. But here we have separated each and every dress separately by the colors. So we are using between. Okay, the next one. Misinformation was knowingly spread among the gullible crowd. So again, the group, so among. Dolly wanted to spend some time among friends before she went off to study abroad. Now this is, we sometimes use amongst because when it's between friends and all, so it's a little informal. Amongst, we can use amongst also. So I've just written that. You can either say Dolly wanted to spend some time amongst her friends before she went off to study abroad, or Dolly wanted to spend some time among her friends before she went off to study abroad. Next, we have phrases with the word between and among. So, difference between. This is a phrase, difference between. So, how do we use it in a sentence? There is quite a bit of difference between Joe and Sam. So, difference between means there is some unsimilarity. So, that's difference between. Next, we have between you and me. Between you and me, it's not between you and I. Please remember, it's not between you and I. It's between you and me. And what does this word between you and me mean? This expression is used when we try to say, when we want the other person to keep something secret. We are telling that person some secret which we don't want that person to disclose. Then we use that word between you and me. Between you and me, I think Jenny is quitting her job. So maybe I heard from someone that Jenny is quitting her job, and that's not very certain. I'm not very certain whether the news is correct or not. So I'm confiding it to my friend and I tell her between you and me. That means I trust her not to tell it to anyone else. So it's between you and me. I think Jenny is quitting her job. Okay. The next one is among. Among others. Julie and Jane, among others, are supporting their captains. Among others, again, it's a group. So among is always associated with a group. So it's that. Among other things. So it's when you are talking about people, you say among others. When you're talking about things, then you say among other things. Among other things, Sally is carrying the camera with her. So she has many other things with her. She's carrying many other things with her. And among those things, she also has her camera. So among other things, Sally is carrying her camera. Next, we move on to a little small quiz, to understand whether we have fully understood the difference between among and between. Okay. The first sentence is, there was an agreement signed blank the RJC College, the AIM College, the BMS College and the SCT College regarding the admission procedure. So over here, what do we see? There are 4 colleges, but there are more than 3. Yes. Should we use among or should we use between? What I told you, remember, if they are distinct, if they are separate, then we use between. Yes, they are separate. Each have their individual name. So they are distinctly mentioned over here. So of course, Even they are many in number, they are 4 in number, but we will use between. So the answer is there was an agreement signed between the RJC College, the AIM College, the BMS College and the SCT College regarding admission procedure. Your house is hidden blank trees. So, as I told you, plural noun is associated with among. You have usually plural nouns after among. So, your house is hidden among trees. Next, we fly blank Singapore and Delhi quite often. So, we are traveling. Between Singapore and Delhi, of course. So, we fly between Singapore and Delhi to and fro. My pen fell blank the pile of books. Well, here, what do you think it should be? Among or between? Well, there can be two cases and let's look into both of them. So the first case is my pen fell between the pile of books. So maybe there are two pile of books and the pen fell in between as the picture shows, in middle of that two pile of books. Well, the next situation is as my pen fell among the pile of books. See, so many pile of books are there. So since it's a group, there is no demarcation as to two, equal groups. There are no separation of the groups of the pile of books. So we say my pen fell among the pile of books. So it's the situation which defines in such cases whether we use between or whether we use among. If there is a clear demarcation of two groups or two separate entities, then we use between. But if there is no clear demarcation, if, it's like a group, then we use among. So that's all for today. Hope the lesson was useful. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section. I'll be back with a new lesson very soon. Till then, take care, stay safe, and be happy.